Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Morgan Harris, and welcome to the first episode of General Wisdom, where we speak with WNL alumni about what they're doing, where they're living, and how they wound up there. Today's guest from the class of 2010 is Marquita Robinson, coming to us all the way from Los Angeles. How are you doing, Marquita?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent. We got a beautiful fall day in Lexington. Leaves are turning.
Nice. You don't have to brag about your leaves turning. We don't have that, but, whatever.
Hey, at least you have the one, season that everyone agrees they like.
Yeah, it either runs hot or runs cooler, but it's essentially the same season.
Nice. Well, so you've been out in LA for a little bit now, and currently you're working as a researcher for the show At Midnight on Comedy Central.
Yes.
So for those unfamiliar, could you tell us a little bit about that show and what your role in that entails?
Yeah, sure. So At Midnight is a late-night show in a game show format. And basically we take everything that's trending and topical on the internet and some weird things that we find on our own, and we basically make a game out of it. It's hosted by Chris Hardwick, and we have 3 contestants that are usually comics, varying in their career stature. And sometimes we have celebrity guests, and it's kind of fun. It's like a multiple choice thing about, what crazy stuff happened on the internet that day, and then we make games out of, Craigslist posts and Etsy stuff, and it's a fun situation.
Nice. Yeah, I've started watching it in the past couple weeks, and it is certainly very fun. As we were talking before we started recording, I'm going to start participating in those hashtag wars.
You should. They're fun. I mean, it's kind of a chance to, basically we have like a pun war that we kick out for people who've never watched the show, that we kick out to the audience, and we say, the game tonight is ruin a children's book, and we give out examples of I'm afraid that any example I'd try right now would be inappropriate, but we do something like that, or food comedians like Janine Falafelo or David Allen Gruyere.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
Those were mine when we played it.
Nice.
And, so then we kick it out to the audience, and you can go on Twitter and play the game, and you have a chance of getting your tweet on the show the next day. So it's kind of fun.
Very cool.
Go for it, Morgan.
All right. Hey, and anyone else out there? Follow At Midnight. Do hashtag wars. They start, half an hour before the broadcast?
An hour before the show. 11:30 Eastern.
Yeah. Night owls out there.
Yeah.
All right. So, working in your industry, as you mentioned, you get to hang out with celebrities of various stature. I'm sure you have tons of stories from that, many of which might not be appropriate for the air, but is that something that you might be able to share?
Well, I can't say that I actually hang out with celebrities. I've only been out here for 4 years, and I can't say that I have the look of somebody who would actually hang out with a bunch of celebrities. But obviously, working out in Los Angeles, especially in the industry, you do kind of end up having weird crosses with people. I think I'll give you a story that's like more about how much of an idiot I am than an interesting thing about a celebrity. But one of my first big jobs out here was this paid internship at Disney in the movie department, where they develop all the films and make them, and it was a huge deal for me, and I was so excited to be there. And the first week I had to train with all of the assistants, being in LA, and it's kind of great. It was great for me to be able to sit down and kind of learn the ropes on every single desk and learn about every exec's office. And I was sitting with this one guy, and I overheard, like, around the cubicles, like somebody was listening to Grey's or watching Grey's. And I was like, oh, somebody's watching TV at work. It's kind of loud. Turn down that McDreamy. And then I see the first assistant to the president of the department walk down with Patrick Dempsey in real life, and I was like, oh, I was just hearing Patrick Dempsey and the Flesh talking, and I just shouted out, somebody turn down McDreamy. So that was my first week, and that's basically what every celebrity story is in my life, is like just awkward and strange.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the very first part of the very first chapter in your experience in the entertainment industry. So from there, how did you sort of wind up where you are currently? And do you have any tips for fellow alumni who might be looking to enter the world that you've been occupying for the past few years?
Yeah, sure. So I knew when I got to W&L, like in the first semester, that I wanted to get into the entertainment business in some way, especially on the creative side. And I decided that I wanted to go to film school, and I had a very specific program in mind. So I basically, geared every undergrad towards getting into the start producing program at USC's film school. And I got in, thankfully, on my first try, which was like a miracle, I felt. Yeah. And so I graduated. I spent 2 months living at my parents' house, excited about the semester starting in LA. And I started film school out here August of the year I graduated, and basically went through that crazy program that's full of pressure and crazy type A human beings. And I interned at a ton of places, at Disney, Mark Ward & Company. I read scripts for people for money. I worked a little bit with this guy, Franklin Leonard, who runs the Blacklist, which is a huge thing here. And again, I think I said I worked for Disney at one point. And yeah, I just hustled and didn't turn down any internships, got my life together, got a lot of coffee for people, did a lot of cleaning the mold out of refrigerators, and reading scripts that felt like they were written by a 12-year-old, and all of that stuff. And then when I graduated, I started working for a big manager. His name's David Launer, amazing person, really smart, amazing clients, and I got my ass kicked on that desk for a year, which is all a part of it. Luckily, I had a boss that wasn't insane and actually cared about me and wanted me to get something out of the job. And I worked there for a year, and then I started working on TV shows. So I was a writer's assistant on Lucky 7, for a little bit on the show Odyssey, and then I started working on At Midnight. Super long story for just 4 years.
Hey, a lot happens in those first 4 years.
Yeah, I've had 10,000 jobs. About $1 billion.
So you mentioned a little bit about your film school experience. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, USC is one of the premier film schools.
It's the Beth Morgan. It's the best.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to be a little modest on your behalf.
I'm not. Just kidding. It is debatable. It really depends on what you want to get out of a film school.
Actually, would you be able to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Film schools is always kind of the question for people who want to go into the entertainment industry, and there are definitely pros and cons in either direction. And I went to film school, and I still take a step back, and I'm like, you know what? It could have been a good decision. It could have been a bad decision, depending. Film school was great for me because I didn't know anybody in Los Angeles. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't have, I'm not independently wealthy, so I couldn't, move myself over and wait out a job. And I honestly just needed to learn the basics of the industry, like the lingo and, how to read the box office numbers and, what a spec means and what, just the basics of the industry that kind of make you seem a little less green when you already know it.
Yeah.
So going to film school was huge for me, and also the most important thing was you kind of buy into a group of people who all kind of want to do the same thing, who are all just as driven and just as insane as you are. And I basically came out and had a set group of 24 people that I could, that knew me when I started and have a vested interest in helping me and me helping them. Plus, you get to do sort of the embarrassing learning moments in a classroom rather than when you're on a desk with a crazy boss.
Right, right.
So that's that. I mean, those are the pros of film school. The cons are that it's insanely expensive, and a good majority of people never really end up, hitting the career points that they wanted to, and it can be a burden if you don't have a ton of money to sink into an MFA. And there are more people who get through Hollywood without having gone to film school, and it's totally possible, but it is also a struggle and a hustle, and you kind of have to build your network from scratch, and you have to learn stuff from scratch. So it all depends on what your thing is,
Cool, thank you.
No problem.
I think that'll be helpful to any prospective.
I hope so. And if anyone has, I know there are specific questions. I'm being a little vague, but if anyone wants to ask me anything about film school or anything they can do at W&L to help them, you can tweet me. I'm always on Twitter, unfortunately. I have no life. And you can hit me
me
up.
Too.
Yay!
Got our handles right here.
Right here.
Right there.
So angry I did that.
So, you mentioned obviously you went to W&L, of course.
Yeah, I did. Did you guys know? I went to Washington Lee University.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I hear it's a great school.
I heard it's incredible.
So, at W&L, what key experiences, either academic or otherwise, sort of helped prepare you for what you experienced after W&L, either in film school or what you have done since then?
Sure. I'd say I've used a good deal of my W&L experience out here. Even when I thought something wasn't that meaningful, it often becomes meaningful. Part of it is because I think that's kind of how the way the world works. But I majored in mass comm and theater because there isn't necessarily a production program or a producing program. So I basically tried to piece together what was at W&L, and mass comm was great because I got to learn a lot about media literacy and just general editing and using video or using cameras and whatever. And also when I was there, Bob DeMaria, who's a legend, was working in the department and was my favorite person in the world and was literally my therapist as an advisor. And then I was also heavily involved in the theater program, and I did an honors thesis in directing, which was major to kind of helping me develop just a sense and an eye for putting something together. And there's a lot of producing in theater directing. There's a lot of creative game time, decision making, and a lot of creative management in that. And just being in that department was really honestly an opportunity to really, if you want to make something happen, you can make it happen because you are the department when you join.
Yeah.
I also did some internships in New York, which was awesome. The first time I did it, I basically just applied to a bunch of Craigslist internships and ended up at this place called Embassy Row that did a lot of Food Network shows and all the Bobby Flay shows. So that was my first internship. And then the next summer, I was lucky enough to get a few grants through the theater department and through the dean's office. There's a grant for people who do honors theses, and you can get a little bit of money to kind of travel if you need to, or do the necessary research and make sure that you're not going into poverty as you're working on something that's pretty substantial. So I had a great summer, a nice funded summer. And then the last thing I'll say is that I also studied abroad with the theater department, and basically just watched West End shows for 6 weeks. And I also stayed in my flat and watched British TV shows for 6 weeks. And a lot of people thought I was a loser for not going on all of the touristy traps, but you know, when I came to LA, I had all of this like back knowledge of original British TV formats because that's all I did. That's all I did. And that ended up being kind of surprisingly helpful for me.
Funny how that works out sometimes.
It's funny. Sometimes laziness gets you ahead.
You heard it here.
Heard it right here. Then advocating for student laziness.
Woo! Now, I have to say, what about you certainly weren't lazy in Wednesday Night Live.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for reminding me of that. I, along with a few of my fellow students and Morgan, you were involved in it, started up sketch con. There was like, I mean, Morgan, I feel like when you, I mean, sorry to drag your life into this, but I felt like you also felt that there was an extreme lack of comedy on campus. And what's kind of nice about WNL is that you can fix that, like you can put something together and make it how janky and sketchy it is. So we started a sketch comedy group, and it was a ragtag team of ridiculous human beings, and we just put together sketches and, you know, some improv segments, and it was extremely fun, and surprisingly people were into it, and they came to see it even though we were the most unprofessional version of a college sketch group that you could do. But you know, it was fun. That was a fun big deal, and I should tell people I did that more often.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of my college, or I guess technically it might have been post-college by the time I joined.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. I mean, you were quite helpful. We used to solicit, like, we were broke college students, so we would solicit for money during our show, and there may have been a thing with Morgan dressed up in a way.
Maybe a thing, you know. We are back after that brief technical difficulty. Thanks for hanging in there.
You know, these things happen.
They happen. And we just waited a moment as Marquita reloaded her little profile symbol there, which, as you can see, is a... What is that, Marquita?
So that's basically the Colonnade, but it's from the Cleveland show, because the creator of that show went to WNL, and they did a funny cutaway joke about a graduation, and I was watching, obviously, supporting, and saw that it was the Colonnade and paused it and took a picture of it. That was like 4 years ago.
That's beautiful. I recall when Mike Henry came to campus, he mentioned that there was an episode of the Cleveland show that did feature the Colonnade.
Mm-hmm.
So
pretty amazing. Pretty cool.
Pretty incredible. Now, did you say you have interacted with Mike Henry a little bit out in LA? Yeah,
when he came to talk, it was my senior year, and I had already heard that I got into USC, and I think some people, WNL is super small, obviously, and some people on contact told that there was a student who was going to LA, and he like called me out on stage and was like, "Someone going to LA? Someone's coming to LA. Call me. Make sure you send me an email." And I did, and my first week out, I got to go to the Cleveland show offices, and you know, we just had like a nice talk about basically what it's like to be somebody who wants to go into entertainment and go to WNL, and I got to go to a table read, and it was pretty awesome. It was like just a really nice alumni interaction. And
it's great to hear.
Kind of set yeah. One day when I have an office, I'll be like, "Come on, guys.
One day
I'll tell you about why you shouldn't go into the entertainment industry."
Well, I have a feeling that one day is not too far off.
We'll see.
You're a
It's all
pro.
about patience.
Yep, yep. You plan to be in LA for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah, unless you know a great job comes along that I can't turn down, then I'll go wherever that job is. So we'll see.
Yeah. So obviously LA is a bit different than Lexington.
Just a little. Just a little.
So I'm just wondering how in general how do you like living there, and would you recommend that other alumni who are looking to enter the entertainment industry think about moving there, or might there be other options?
Yeah, there are tons of options, and again, it all depends on what exactly you're going for. But I don't think it's a bad idea to start somewhere other than LA before you move here. If you want to be in film or TV, eventually you're going to have to move to LA. And some people like to go to New York or Chicago just to kind of cut their teeth on something and to have a little bit of experience before going into, the big time, at risk of sounding like an old school, producer. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to maybe hit up New York and, work in social media marketing, which I did for an internship before I came out. And there's nothing wrong with kind of broadening your kind of knowledge base and your experience. So I would advocate for going off and doing something for a few years before coming out to LA. But at the end of the day, if you want to write for TV, if you want to write movies, especially big studio movies, LA is going to be the place to be. And, am I missing a part of that question?
I guess general quality of life versus
oh yeah
Lexington, what are the key differences?
Well, you know what, Lexington has kind of evolved very quickly, I think, after I left. And by evolved I mean they have a Thai restaurant now.
Well, it went away.
Okay, just kidding, there's no longer a Thai restaurant. It's just ebbing and flowing.
Yeah.
Lexington. Well, LA is obviously a giant city with an immense diversity, and just it's really not it's not a city that decided it was going to be a city. It's like five that kind of just grew into each other, and it's kind of amazing and incredible, and obviously the weather is perfect. But it doesn't have the kind of sweet small town feel of Lexington, and I do sort of miss the whole if I leave my car door unlocked, I am pretty sure I'm not going to get robbed sort of mentality that's kind of nice about Lexington. And I do kind of miss being in a community of intellectuals, because here there are very smart people that are wasting all of their intellect on talking about box office statistics and who's a star and who's not, and that can be super annoying. So I do kind of miss people who are people, for sure. but I've obviously found a good group of people here. It's just LA is a very different breed of city and industry. Also, it's mad expensive, and I'm pretty sure my apartment costs more than my parents' mortgage in Oklahoma City, and I'm struggling with that every day. Struggling with that thought every day.
Ooh, and do you have a big commute too?
I don't now. I used to have, when I was at Disney and full-time in film school, my commute was insane. I probably drove about 2 hours and 15 minutes a day, or 2.5 hours. Now it's 10 minutes, I'm just down the street, and my life has completely changed because of it. Because it's amazing. You're oh, I'm at work. Now I'm home. Hasn't even been an hour. So much time. So little gas.
Yeah.
So few near-death experiences.
That's key.
Yeah, so key.
Well, I think you already spoke a bit about what you miss about Lexington WNL. If there's anything else in particular on that note that was on your mind that you missed
sure.
the most, feel free to share that.
Meal plans. not having to think about buying groceries every day. I mean, really. Um, the entire theater department, I miss a ton. And I miss sunrise sandwiches. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's all going to be food and theater. I just miss, like, it feels very East Coasty, and, when it's winter, it smells like winter, like that kind of stuff. And I almost feel like I'm gonna miss saying that I miss something, and then I'm gonna be in trouble. I'm gonna be in trouble, and so it's gonna be like, you don't miss me. Let's see. Yeah, I miss a lot of the staff, like the deans, and there are a lot of professors that I wish I could have on. I could just walk into their office and talk to every day. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that we all miss. That's why people like me just moved back.
Yeah.
So, Marquita, thank you so much for taking this time to spend with us.
No problem. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Oh, our pleasure. And folks watching at home, as Marquita mentioned, you can find her on Twitter if you have any questions, follow-up questions for her. And be sure to tune in next month when we speak with Sam Reed, also in Marquita's class, who is working for a Bitcoin.
It's doing really well. It's doing really well.
Yeah, in a very interesting space, in the Bitcoin space, which is a personal passion of mine. So it'll be
incredible.
Certainly an in-depth conversation. But Marquita, thanks again for joining us, and everyone, we will see you next time.
Bye.